Is this the first time you've spoken about it?
I have sort of skirted the issue as I've been waiting to get enough research that is sound to have a public conversation about it, but you have very bravely sort of dragged the subject out into a public conversation. I'm now confident enough of the data to confirm exactly what you're saying.
Well, I mean, just so you know, I've been covering this ever since I got on air 13 years ago, and I've had a lot of the historians on who really first codified this and put this together. But just so you know, if you go to Google Video, no need to buy the DVD from Infowars.com, though it'd be nice. I'll send you one, but for listeners, it's nice to have the high-quality digital DVD. If you go to Google and type martial law in and click video, Naomi, I made a 3-hour film about this. The last hour is about it.
Are you serious?
Yeah, and so no need to watch the first 2 hours. It's about other things. But you can fast forward to the last hour, and we have. But since we brought this out, the London Guardian's reported, the BBC has reported,
the BBC's reported,
and BBC Radio and TV. So it's now.
You're the guy who brought it out that the BBC picked it up from. That's amazing.
Well, no. Let me give credit where credit's due. Webster Tarpley. I'd already read this and talked about it, but Tarpley about 12 years ago did the main research, and then Mr. Buchanan, who I interviewed for the film, with John Buchanan, he actually went to verify, and we went with him to the National Archives.
Oh, my God.
And then since then we've gotten the actual clips of newsreel 18-millimeter footage from the McCormick-Dickstein Committee.
No.
Yes.
You're kidding.
Yes.
Oh, my God. I've got to see this material.
Yeah, it's dangerous.
We've got to bring this out. I mean, we've got to bring this out. I've got a friend who is standing by to make a viral film about this to get the word out to Americans, because it's one thing to put the pieces together theoretically, as I've done in my book, but when you realize that there is a family history, and again, you can't point fingers at a grandson or a great, grandson and say, the taint of the ancestors on the grandson, but it just...
But now he's doing it. It's kind of like saying...
Now he's doing it. That's right. And it adds a dimensionality of plausibility to something that is, until you have this kind of personal history confirmation, is circumstantial evidence. Oh, my gosh.
Now, I want to, but for your research, London Guardian, and then you can expand out from there to BBC, and it was also picked up by 3 U.S. newspapers, but they're local dailies,
right.
So it's all been vetted out. And Prescott Bush was the main bag man on the board of directors of Fritz Thiesen's Union Carbide and Brown Brother Harriman. And then after the war, he was the bag man, and then it gets into Texas history and even family that I talked to who didn't know what they were seeing in Midland after World War II, but was telling me about this when I was a little kid, and how all this comes out about how there were all these Nazis everywhere, and it's just
no, Alex,
yes.
You're kidding me. Can we talk afterwards and follow up more about this?
Absolutely. I get off at about 3 Eastern. I don't know what time zone you're in.
This is really important because, truly, what is so disturbing about the research that I found isn't the broad brushstrokes. That's bad enough. But what is really disturbing are these minute fingerprints. Like, you look at, they unloaded coffins at night in Germany. We unload coffins at night. They pioneered the embedding of reporters. We pioneered the embedding of reporters.
Now, stop right there. Let's go through the 10 steps while we have time. Go ahead.
Sure.
You've got the floor. Yeah,
thank you. So the first, I'm sorry, I'm just still reeling from what you're saying.
I understand, yeah.
It's big. Also, I'm not putting these pieces together. I want to be super clear about this, but I just got off an interview where for the first time I also said in public, that citizens should be able to ask any questions they want about 9/11, and that it's not a good sign in a democracy when there are some questions that are off limits. And I made it super clear that I'm not drawing any kinds of conclusions, but that in a strong democracy, if citizens call for more investigation of a major crime, there's more investigation.
Well, did you know that Glenn Beck and Bill O'Reilly have said that Ron Paul supporters are working for Al-Qaeda, and Glenn Beck called for the military to be used against citizens last week?
Oh, my God. No, I did not.
You can actually watch the video. Yeah, it's on.
Why now? Ron Paul supporters because they're for the Constitution?
They're calling us domestic enemies, I had the congressman on last week about it, and in fact, we can even play the clips, but we're running out of time. But yes, they're now saying this.
That's really scary. And they called out the military against them?
Well, they said we need to consider using the military. And then if you read, yes, against citizens, and then if you read, saying we're a domestic threat, and then if you read the John Warner Defense Authorization Act, it says it funds martial law for domestic insurrection by the citizenry. And then in PDD 51, Bush says that he's above continuity of government, not Congress.
Yes, that's right. Well, that is super scary because I know that they're training FBI agents right now to identify people who are critical of the administration as terrorists, which is something right out of the Stalinist playbook. And, in fact, Norman Podhoretz's new book identifies people like me and you, obviously, as, quote-unquote, domestic insurgents. And, you know, in a fascist shift, what I call a fascist shift, that's step 8 and 9, which is to start identifying critics of the regime or critics of the cadre in power.
But here's the good news, Naomi.
Traitors. Yes, sir.
Here's the good news. Right. Hitler did it and was popular. They're doing it and totally blowing their cover. That I think, is the good news.
That is good news, but until there's a revolution, like starting yesterday, of American patriots across the political spectrum to investigate, identify these crimes, prosecute, and put these people in jail, because impeachment, the historical record shows, is not safe enough for people who are this kind of
I agree. No, this is life and death. Invoke a terrifying internal or external enemy. In 9/11,
yes.
let's go through
the 10 steps. Sure. All would-be dictators, left or right, invoke a terrifying internal and external enemy, often a real one that they will hype and manipulate. The second thing they always do is create a secret prison system that is outside the rule of law. By secret, I mean unaccountable, where torture takes place, and they often create military commissions. There's always a blurring of the line where they start by torturing people seen as at the margins of society, and then inevitably move into directing state abuse against people at the heart of civil society, journalists, editors, opposition leaders, outspoken clergy, and labor leaders. At that point, people start to self-censor. And that's why the enemy combatant thing scares me to death. The president can say, Naomi Wolf, you're an enemy combatant. Joe Blow, you're an enemy combatant. And innocent American citizens, once he says this, can be put in a 10 by 12-foot cell in a Navy brig and kept there in isolation for 3 years.
And they're now trying to introduce that idea as a White House talking point we got, that anti-war libertarians, liberals are aiding terrorists and should be banned.
Lovely. I mean, this is just predictable. The blueprint is predictable. You could tell 6 months ago that this was ahead. And what's interesting to me, also historically predictable, is as people start to wake up, the regime is starting to ramp down, because it is a race against time. Like, who's going to win? Are we going to wake up in time and put them in prison, or are they going to get us, and push us past the point of no return, which is very quick.
Boy, you are certainly on the same page as I am. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, well, let's hope we win. The third thing they always do is create a paramilitary force that is not answerable to the citizens.
Blackwater.
Blackwater, exactly. And they are operating in the United States right now. They're hand-selected torturers and murderers from regimes like Chile, Pinochet's guys, El Salvador, Nigeria, where they torture their own citizens, and they're opening training grounds in Illinois in
Naomi Wolf, stay there. We're going to come right back. We're going to keep her 5 minutes in the next hour. Then we have a guest coming on with the secret history of education and the big foundations. We'll be right back.